landing in today with all things womb and womb love today, and I'm really excited for us to nourish ourselves and our wombs together. So what this is going to look like is checking in with what it means to nourish our womb and what that looks like. And then we're going to spend some time with a womb massage touch, and then we're going to close with a visualization together. So that is the whole part of it. So the first thing is, I'm going to just turn off this noise in the background that you might be able to hear. The first thing that we want to do is find ourselves in a really nourishing space. So if you're not already, the things that you're just going to need for this time, and you've made this time, you're here, so you're going to commit to this time where possible, is something quiet, somewhere quiet that you can be, somewhere you can be nested. So it might be that you want to be on your sofa, on your bed, on a really comfy chair. It may be that you're listening to this and you're working, so that's fine. Whatever you're doing, great. But if you can just take this moment, then please do. And then if you have any oil of any sort, or massage oil or moisturizer will work if you have that to hand, coconut oil, almond oil, specific massage oil, then that would help with that massage touch part of it. So finding yourself with that, and then just being nested with anything that you might need. So here's what we're going to do. We're going to land in and we're going to orient. I do this with every client that I work with, and it just means that it gives you time to be in your space and land into the body with breath and acknowledgement of us landing in together. And I can land in with you too. So we're going to just look around our space. So we're looking around the space that we're in, just really allowing for this orientation. And it looks like something that can feel quite odd to begin with, but it's really nourishing just to spend time up, behind, above, same as up, in front of you, and just really finding everything in your space. And it looks like a really lovely, slow, nourishing scan. So you're just like looking around, taking in this time, really being in that space, noticing things that you might not have noticed before, and just really taking this time. Yeah, thank you all so much for just taking this time for yourselves, your womb, your hara, your energetic center. And you're going to keep scanning until you find something in the space that feels really nourishing for you. So for some of us, it's something that's inside the room, sometimes outside of the room. It's something that draws us in with interest in some way or brings us joy, and just be with it. Notice it, and then just gaze with it. Noticing the inhales and the exhales here. Shoulders away from the ears where possible. And the invitation is to bring eyes to a close if it feels safe and you feel ready to do so. Otherwise, you might just allow for this time with the object for a lot longer. And if you're here with eyes closed, we're just taking that breath down into the belly, and we're exhaling out of the mouth. And if your eyes are neutral, you're just really aware of that breath coming in, following it into the belly and exhaling out of the mouth. And as we land in together, we're just really here to acknowledge the season that we're in on a personal level. This could be a season of life or your menstrual cycle season. Sometimes we're here in the season of our perimenopause or menopause. Sometimes we're here in the season of being in this mother season, and then pinpointing whether we're in our spring, summer, autumn, winter, in our cycles. And then acknowledging Mother Earth, spring, summer, autumn and winter. And just really allowing for the acknowledgement of landing here on the earth, of Mother Earth, here for a moment before making any movements that feel welcomed with the body. Maybe it's head rolls or neck rolls before coming into this space together. Just a quick land in. So I work with people with their pelvis. So I work with people with their womb space, and I work with their vagina specifically. And I'm also a birth keeper doula, so I support at birth. So I have a very rounded view of what it looks like to come into relationship with the pelvis, and I'm very much with clients on a one-to-one basis. I'm literally at birth. I'm literally in the space with people on a one-to-one, and I just have I love one-to-one. I think that one-to-one serves this work in such a really beautiful way. So I'm not here spouting from a space of just being here and doing online courses or online chat. I literally am in the space on the regular, and what I see with the womb is often a real disconnect from that space, and then often we're expected to be able just to give birth without having really had any really understanding of our womb space, our pelvis, our vagina overall, and so we're often on the back foot when it comes to empowering ourselves with this space. So what I really want to do is allow for time to be with what it means to have a womb, a hara, an energetic center, and what touch looks like. So I'm a womb massage therapist. I spend time massaging the womb, and I was going to show you a few of the techniques that you can use for your own womb in this space. So hopefully you'll leave I always hope, with something tangible when you're in the space with me. So I'd love to hear in the comments if anybody has anything to say around their relationship with their womb, or any questions that have come up around the womb, or if they've done something before and they'll feel like they want to share something that's really important to them. Anything at all around womb chat, please do just share in the comments so that we can hear from others and be in conversation around it, and it will help to direct where I go with the chat. Because for some people, they've been with the womb and accessed that womb space before, and for some of us we haven't even touched on it and we don't know what that means and looks like. So the womb is in the center of the body, right? It's the very, very center, and some of us can call it the womb, some of us will call it the uterus, some of us can call it the hara, which is the spiritual word for the energetic center, and often we call it the hara if we no longer have a womb. And often I think there's this like, well, I've had the womb out, I've removed the womb, so there's nothing there anymore. And couldn't be further from the truth of what it means to have a womb, because the energy of that space still exists. Some of us have had children, and some of us have had the womb removed during childbirth. Some of us have had children and then later on there's a medical reason to remove the womb. There's so many reasons why the womb might not be there anymore, or conversations around the womb might not be there anymore. There's obviously endometrial cancer, which has been very rife in my family, so it's something that I've had to be with quite a lot. will I need to have my womb removed earlier? So there's so many reasons why we have to access what it means to have a womb, and what it means for us overall when we decide to have children or even not to have children, because for some of us, we've definitely been in a space where we have a womb but we don't ever want children, so we question why we even have a cycle every month. And the cycle is a gift. Like, our menstrual cycle is a gift. It just doesn't feel like it's a gift often. And the reason why it doesn't feel like that is because we live in a misogynistic, patriarchal society that has encouraged us to shut down the wisdom that comes with having a womb space. So then we're really confused on what it means to have a menstrual cycle. So we want to acknowledge first and foremost that our uterus sheds and clears and cleanses itself every single month. Now, if you're on contraceptives, this is where the conversation can be quite tricky, because you sometimes will be triggered in the way I speak about the womb. And that's because if we haven't got a menstrual cycle, it can be sometimes challenging to connect to that if we're on, say, the pill, or we're on an insert, so implant of some sort, whatever it might be. But you can still be with the cycle, right? You can still write down your cycle. You can still be with your cycle. It's still there. It still exists. So what I really want to do is allow for you to connect with that space wherever you are on your journey. I often hear of that, like, perimenopausal year. I actually have people who around me who will be like, I just can't wait to get to my perimenopause and just sack off cycles. I don't have that feeling. I'm like, I love my cycle. I love having the clear and cleanse every month, then knowing that the uterus is rebuilding itself again, and then knowing that it's going to come to that point where it's going to shed again. And I'm like, that's so fucking magical that happens every single month without us having to do anything, apart from nourish ourselves so that our cycle continues. So I truly believe in really being with the acknowledgement that the womb exists, first and foremost. It lies 2 inches above the pubic bone and is held in by these really delicate ligaments. And often what can happen is the womb can tilt and move. And there can be a plethora of reasons why you end up with painful periods, but one of them can be the positioning of the womb. And your massage touch today can be really grateful, really welcomed, for aligning the womb. We can realign the womb. We can. The womb is just there, delicately hanging in by its ligaments, and it can be directed back into the center. When we're hunched over our workspace all the time and we're just like doing our work, or when we don't have like that great positioning, it's me. I'm always like, Tadasana, Tadasana. And the womb does that too. You know, the womb is there. It's like, okay, wherever you go, it goes. So we often have to acknowledge that the womb can be retroverted, anteverted. It can be in all different places. Sometimes it's back and it's tilted. So it's like all sorts of like challenges can come up around that, and then can create more painful periods because the blood flow can't flow as easily. So we want to acknowledge that the womb exists within us, it's delicately there, and it needs tending to. We expect that we just go through our whole lives and we have to attend to our wombs. But as a society, we're very happy to complain about period pains, but we don't necessarily do anything about the period pains to make them any better. And then what happens is that because the doctors often don't have a rounded approach, they don't breathe in the spiritual, physical and emotional side of it all, just the physical in general. And then what happens is that they'll just put you on the pill, or they'll just put you on a coil. They're like, oh, painful periods, we've got the solution, shutting you down. And in my opinion, that's shutting down people's voices and people's needs in that space, because we're not acknowledging what the womb is crying out for. So painful periods, the womb is crying out for attention. Now this can weave in so many ways of like tending to the womb, right? So you can tend to the womb physically, you can tend to the womb with this emotional and spiritual acknowledgement through a whole host of things. And we'd be here all day if I was to go into it with each individual person. There tends to be a whole host of reasons as to why this a challenge might occur. But for you, you might be here being like, oh, I don't have any challenges as such, easy breezy periods. I just want to really acknowledge that the womb is there and tend to it. So the first part is the acknowledgement that it's there. And then the second part is then really being with touch and being with visualization and being with breath and acknowledging that that space exists. We spend a lot of time with our inner work, breathing into our heart space, breathing into our body, into our belly. We spend a lot of time acknowledging that we hold on to emotions within the body. Oh, it's like, well, my shoulder's a little bit painful. And then acknowledging what that might mean, right? Laura's go on this journey, but very few will be like, well, I need to bring in breath to my womb space. Obviously, I need to be aware that my womb space is part and parcel of my body. I need to bring attention to that as well, not just every other aspect. And when you go for a massage, what I find really fascinating as well is that if you go for a massage, they tend to avoid the pelvis overall. I am the opposite. You'll be in my space and we just focus on the pelvis, but often that space is ignored. We don't have that touch. So if we have, for example, a pain somewhere, it often radiates with pain somewhere else. And so if there's pain within the uterus, there could be pain somewhere else. And that could be emotional or physical pain within the body. When we think about fascia and how our whole bodies are held on with fascia, then there is a link somewhere. So a couple of things in the comments. So Victoria said the work's so important. Oh, thank you, Victoria, for being here. I appreciate you endlessly, as you know. And now on day 2 of our cycle, so if we're on our bleeds, then we're going to be even more gentle today with the touch, but to be aware that it's still possible to massage that space, just really, really gentle. Do gut issues affect our womb? You see, as somebody who has had a long whole journey with my gut, I genuinely see it as part and parcel of the two kind of weaving in together because we're really in that same space. But they are two very separate spaces. But I do believe that what I see in my space with clients is if there's gut issues, there's womb issues. If there's womb issues, there's gut issues. Both happen hand in hand because it is the disconnect from that space, and it is the stress is part and parcel. It's a nervous system led response to have a gut issue, and it's a nervous system led response to have issues with our womb. So they are part and parcel from what I see all the time. So when a client has an initial form, I always talk about the gut. I work with the gut within my massage, and I'm always like, how is it? Is there any, how is bowel movements, all of that? And often if there's something coming up within the womb space, there's something coming up there within the gut. So hopefully that answers that. And the shoulder's really painful. Oh, I must have known, Victoria. Well, then I would be like, what fascia release can you do on the shoulder and then down the rest of the body? I love lying on the yoga mat and using a ball. This is totally irrelevant to what we're talking about, but relevant to your shoulder. And using a ball to sort of roll along for the fascia release. Anna Hitter asks, Hitter, I hope I said that right, is, probably didn't, and I apologise profusely if not, in this session being recorded. Well, so on Insight Timer, they don't allow for recording. It's like a live and then it's gone. But I do always try and record on my phone, so then I upload it to my YouTube after. So you will find it there, Anna, in the next couple of days. So let's move into touch. What does it look like? So now we're aware that the womb needs tending to, and within this space we're going to do a lovely visualization. You're welcome, Anna. We're going to do a lovely visualization just to remind ourselves that we're cyclical and that our wombs are cyclical, whether we're on period products of some, whether we're on contraceptive of some sort, we still have a inner cycle, and we still have cycles with the moon. For example, it was the full moon yesterday, right? So we still can acknowledge that we're with the cycle of the moon. For example, if like Victoria, you're bleeding with the full moon, that makes so much sense. She's on day 2 today. Yesterday was the full moon, so she's bleeding with the full moon. This happens quite a lot, or the new moon. And the seasons of Mother Earth. Let's acknowledge the seasons of Mother Earth. I truly talk about and truly believe in the tending to ourselves, the mothering of ourselves that stems from the energetic center, the womb space. So how you tend to yourself within your bleed while your uterus is going through something pretty major, like literally bleeding from your vagina out into the earth, and like your uterus is literally allowing for that and sometimes having to contract for that. How do you tend to yourself in that space? How do you mother yourself in that space? Because if you're somebody who doesn't tend to yourself and doesn't mother yourself in that space, then I raise questions around what you need moving forward to tend to yourself in that space. And that would be a whole thing on like how we could do that, but we should be doing that. We should be tending to ourselves. We should be tending to our wombs. We should be tending to ourselves on our bleed. And how are you doing that? And how are you modeling that? Not just for yourself, but for your partner, perhaps. Perhaps you have children. How are you modeling that for them? So I've got twin girls and my son. They witness me resting on my period and taking it slow. I used to suffer with really bad period pains to the point where it was debilitating. You know, I've gone through it all, collapsing at 17 with my first period, unable to have a period, shut that down with a pill, then came off for trying for children, thought I was actually dying. Is this death? Every month. And then it didn't get any better after having children vaginally, so I ended up going on this journey, right? It's why I'm here. And so then when I found that actually, oh, you mean like I have to look after myself within my cycle and mother myself, and I'm the sort of person that just won't even sip a like bit of water throughout the day because I just can't be arsed. Even though I'm like really thirsty, I'm like, oh, I just really don't want to have to put that water to my lips. And so many clients have said this to me where they're like, I just can't be asked to look after myself, but I'll happily look after everybody else around me. And so it's how do we tend and mother ourselves within our whole cycle, and particularly within our period, within our bleed, so that our uterus can do what it needs to do and not have to work harder to do what it needs to do. So then there's the pain and disconnect and challenge within that space is what I see. And there's so much more around that, but on a basic level for this live is what we're speaking to. So you're going to get your oils ready in a minute, and we're going to be with this massage touch. I've got a lovely pelvic model to sort of support. So the pelvic model here shows it's very annoying, it's vertical, it can't see me anywhere. The pelvic model here shows that the uterus is here, held in the middle here, gently, right? And so what we can do is we can tend to that space with touch, and it lies this 2 inches above that pubic bone here. So it's lying there, and you're going to bring in touch to that space. So what that looks like is you've got your 2 hips, and you can start to feel the pubic bone. So I'm going to move. I'm wearing all black, which is absolutely, and it's a jumpsuit today. So I've not helped at all because I can't really take it down to show you as I want to. I might have to you might have to see me strip in a minute. So here are your 2 hip bones, and then here is the pubic bone here. And so we're massaging this bit here in between the 2 here. And to begin with, it's really simple. This is like a really basic thing, right? So first of all, we will be bringing in circles from one side of the hip, bringing in these loving circles as deep as you want to go, depending on where you're on your cycle. So if you're bleeding or you're going towards bleed, your womb's going to be twice as heavy, right? So you don't want to put loads and loads of pressure on that space, but you want to like bring in a nice gentle touch. And then you massage in circles across from the hips, across to the other side. And you just keep going one side, bringing in those loving circles across the womb space to the other side. So here what we're doing is we're really like allowing for the alignment of that space. So then the other thing we can do is we can breathe with a touch that brings in and finds the edges. It's quite difficult. The more I massage people, the more I'm easily able to find it. So it can take a minute, but you're trying to find this elasticated like edge of the womb. And when you find it, you just bring in a deep touch and loosen and go across. So you're moving across and you're again on the other side, you're trying to find what would be this elasticated edge of the womb space. So because I am recording on my phone so that everybody can see it after if you want to. So I'm moving the phone here with my hand. So you're going to have a moving across, finding the elasticated edge of the womb and then deepening into that touch and then moving across. And so you can do that one way and then you can do it the other way. So you're really finding yourself moving from one side to the other, again, to aid that support. And then you're just generally going to be in this area, acknowledging that there's ovaries in this space, being with the ovaries and bringing in a sort of like like an acupressure kind of touch to that space, and just acknowledging that some of us have 2 ovaries, right? Some of us only have 1. So we're just going to acknowledge that they're there and they exist, and just bring in some kind of acupressure touch to acknowledge the energy of that space. So really simple. Circles, circles, bringing them in. Bringing in a deeper touch, finding the elasticated kind of edge where possible, but you might not feel it. So just knowing that you're deepening into this space here in the center and then moving across the other way. So that's just basically what we're going to do while bringing in breath. So we're going to do this in this really nourishing space by lying down, maybe on a chair, but if possible, lying down somewhere in your space, because we're going to end the whole thing here just by being with this touch, being with visualization and breath. So having your massage oil at the ready. And if anyone has any questions in the meantime, please just let me know while everybody is getting into that space. Otherwise, I'm going to just carry on and presume everyone's ready, or at least getting into that space of being ready. And so to begin with, you want to ask permission of the womb to be touched, right? It's like, okay, well, I want to touch my womb, but have I asked that they want to be touched? Do they have a pronoun? So I often use she, but that might not be the case for you. So just checking in. So first of all, being in the energy of that space, the energetic field of that space. Would the womb like touch today? If it does, getting the oil on your hands and being in that space. And when you feel ready, coming into just like a cradle of that space, just acknowledging that space here. And if this is all you do, maybe even in the in like a yoni mudra, and you're just here in that space and you're acknowledging that space first and foremost, and that's it, that's amazing. You've done amazing work, and that is plenty for your Wednesday afternoon. But if you want to take it further, then you can begin to bring in that touch. So as I showed you, bringing in that circle, bringing in that swaying from one side to the other, and taking in lovely deep inhale through the nose and exhaling out of the mouth. Bringing in touch, bringing in inhales, exhales, surrendering onto the earth. And I'm going to continue to be with this love, this tending, this mothering of yourself, celebrating you in this space. And if you're here doing it, amazing. If you're here listening in or just watching, then great. You can always come back to this at any time. So beginning to be with that breath, deepening into the womb, directing that breath, inhaling to the womb space as you touch, as you massage. Almost like you're filling the womb space with this loving breath, and as you exhale, you're allowing it to just come back into itself, really being with it. And then really allowing for almost like there's going to be this light that begins to radiate from within the womb. So it might be a white light, a pink light, a golden light, and as you bring in touch to this space and breath, there's this light that radiates, and this light glows and grows with every inhale into the womb. Every inhale, growing and glowing this light from the center of the womb space into the rest of the womb. And as it grows and glows, it begins to touch the edges of the womb space as you bring in this loving touch. And you can pause at any point with this touch. So you can bring in this touch until you feel complete. Then you can just pause in that yoni mudra position, or with hands away from the womb, or a hand on the heart and a hand on the womb, whatever feels good. And as you're here in this space, then you begin to allow for that light to begin to radiate towards both the fallopian tubes. Right fallopian tube towards the right ovary, physically and energetically, and left fallopian tube, left ovary, physically and energetically. And allowing for this light to fill and radiate and touch the edges of the womb, the edges of the tubes and the ovaries, before beginning to flow down towards the cervix. And then it flows through the cervix, bringing in love to this space, touching the edges of that vagina area, all through the vagina, down through past the labia and into the earth below. Breathing into the womb where the light began, expanding it into this space, and as you exhale, moving it down through the cervix, through the vagina, past the labia, into the earth. Inhaling the light, exhaling it out into the earth below. Being with the touch if that feels welcome, or pausing at any point and continuing to do this for a moment longer, being with the light, being with any touch, or at least holding. Beginning to pause the touch if you haven't already, and just continue with the light. Bringing in touch to the heart space in the womb if that feels nourishing. Just really allowing for this space and acknowledgement that you're creating here. And for some of us, this is big work to connect with the womb in this way, so just acknowledging that. And beginning to allow for any adjustments in the space as the light begins to fade, knowing it's there whenever you need. Just taking a moment to tend and mother yourself with the womb just for a moment longer before coming back out into the space, into that neutral space where you were gazing longingly at this item at the beginning and coming back to that, but there's no rush to do that. When you feel ready, coming back into the cool, but there's again no rush to come back into the cool just yet. Just take your time. And as you come back, I'd love to hear in these final moments together if there was anything that came up for you, or any questions that might have come up, or any sensations or anything emotional that came up for you connecting to your womb in this way. You can just pop it in the comment box. And while we're waiting for that, we'll just speak to the touch and tending to our wombs more regularly moving forward. So you can come with that touch as many times as you feel called. You could do it after a shower or a warm bath, or in the bath, for example, and just acknowledging that the womb is there and bringing in this lovely aligning touch to that space. Try to avoid the bleed where possible, but if you are using touch on the bleed, just being really gentle with yourself on that, because it can be, especially going towards the bleed, heavier and a little bit more painful often for some of us. So just really being aware of when that touch feels really welcomed. And really just bringing in the acknowledgement that the womb exists with your positioning in your posture. So if you're finding yourself over a laptop more often, or hunched over your phone, just how can you allow for, it's not just for the rest of the body, but it's to allow for the womb to have space and expansion in that space. And the more we allow for an expansive space within the center, the more we're going to be expansive overall. Because I believe and see that the vagina is the portal to all that is the portal to the space of the womb, and the womb is this expansive space where we have creativity and birth our ideas from, and birth our businesses from, and birth everything from, including sometimes babies. And we can gestate, we can grow, we can plant seeds at the beginning of our cycles, and then those will grow and grow until we end up with something really beautiful and tangible at the end of it. And sometimes that takes months and years to grow this creative idea, and sometimes we're growing a baby and it takes 9 months. But how amazing that the womb has the capacity to do this. It's not void because we haven't had children, or we're not having children anymore. It's not void. It's still there. It's still very much part and parcel of you and your body, and is necessary. And in my opinion, we unnecessarily cut wombs out when that doesn't need to happen, and actually doesn't really solve the problem sometimes either. So what we really want is to acknowledge that that space is part and parcel of our creative endeavors, and of us, and how can we tend to our wombs. And the way we tend to our wombs is how we tend to ourselves overall, and mother ourselves, in my opinion. And we all came from a womb. Let's remember, we all came from a womb. Let's have a look. Felt good, so good to deeply pause. I really acknowledge that, Victoria. I think that's why I like doing it at 1 p.m. UK time, and I don't know what time it is for everybody, but I quite like the fact that wherever you are in your day, it's just a quick 45 minutes that we can all do and just pause and talk about the pelvis, which is a treat. How frequently should we do this massage? It's a really good question. So I was just speaking to that. So You can do the massage as much as you want. There's no, if it was a vagina massage, I'd be having a different chat with you, but the womb massage, do it as much as you want. And just acknowledging that if you're on your bleed, then just try to lessen that, because it can create more bleed, of course. And it's just a bit more of a gentler time and can be a bit more painful. But yeah, whenever, after a bath, shower, whatever feels good. Thank you, really need the permission and reminder to connect to myself today. Oh, I'm so pleased to hear that. That is definitely my permission slip to do that. And for the rest of the day, I hope that it just creates a bit more connection for the rest of your day. And final one, such a special and beautiful chat. Oh, thanks, love. If anyone wants to make a donation in Insight Timer, you can do so in the back end. They try not to encourage us to do it here because they take 30% PayPal, corporate life. But if you would love to say thank you for my time, then please do. I always really welcome that. And encourages me to do it again. So it will be on the back end, and you can just do a little donation as small as you like or as big as you like. You can find me on Insight Timer. I haven't uploaded anything new recently. I tried to upload these to YouTube, so if you want to have a replay, it will be there. And you can be with any previous Insight Timer recordings that I've been, and if you follow me, then you'll know when the next live is, because I do try and do lives around at the moment around births that I've had. I'm a bit tired if I've had a birth, so I tend to cancel them if I've had that. So if you see a cancellation, it's probably because I've been at a birth, but if I've committed to one, I try to commit to it. So hopefully see you at another one, and I'm sending love into the rest of your day all. Thank you so much for being here. Sending love.